All right, so we will go ahead and get started in Isaiah chapter 8. And I want to tell you the the title to this lesson is key to understanding kind of the meaning that I'm trying to get across. And it is what throne do you answer to? And you might be thinking, okay, we're Christians. This is a Christian audience. God is our throne. So lesson over. Uh, Let me tell you why I think you might consider even more tuning into this. Okay, Matthew chapter 15, verse 8 and 9. These people draw near to me with their mouth. This is Jesus speaking. These people draw near to me with their mouth and honor me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. And in vain they worship me, teaching as doctrines the commandments of men. So the first thing I gotta say, when I ask the question, when I title this lesson, what throne do you answer to? It is so much more easy to verbally, with the mouth, with the lips, to say, God is on my throne. That's the throne I'm serving. It is a whole other thing to then actually do it with the heart, do it with the life, the actions, because really that's what comes down. That's what answers that question to me is, what does your life say that you are doing? What does your life say? What throne do you answer to? So this will be in three parts, basically, three main passages I want to look at for explaining what I mean by this. And I think that there's three good examples that just get us thinking on this. So Isaiah chapter 8, verse 11, "For the Lord spoke thus to me with a strong hand." Now when I read that, with a strong hand, I just picture my dad sending me off to college, and he places his hand on my shoulder and he says, "Remember who you are." Okay, so I want you to picture this being like a father who places his hand on the shoulder of the son. He says, "I want you to listen, and listen carefully." So he speaks to him. He's got that strong hand, and he instructed me in this, that I should not walk in the way of this people, saying, "Do not say a conspiracy concerning all that this people call a conspiracy, nor be afraid of their threats, nor be troubled. The Lord of hosts, him you shall hallow or respect. Let him be your fear, and let him be your dread. He will be as a sanctuary, but a stone of stumbling and a rock of offense to both the houses of Israel, as a trap and a snare to the inhabitants of Jerusalem." So, as he's saying all of this with that strong hand, he's really trying to get him to listen, hear exactly what I'm saying. There's several points in there. First of all, the rest of the people are going to do a certain thing. They're going to say, "Oh, that's just a conspiracy." They're casting out threats. They're troubled in all these different ways. If you read the rest of the chapter, you get more of the context about what was going on, and the king of Assyria and his threat to invade the land. They're worried about all that. Here's what he tries to get Isaiah to focus on. Number one, who's on the throne? Who does he really need to be worried about? If he can place God on his throne, place God who has all power, all ability to protect or destroy. He has all the ability. If you're called a son of God, you're in good hands, right? The one who's all powerful, who says, "You're my son," if you can find some way to make that happen, to make him call you his son or his daughter, you're in a good position, okay? And so that's what he's trying to get Isaiah to figure that out. Let me be your fear. Let me be your dread. And if you can make me in your throne, then at that point, you're going to look at somebody else and worry about what they can do to you. That's probably not a good thing, okay? So we have to have God be our fear. He's got to be on our throne. And we don't need to worry about anything else that is going on out in the world, okay? So the big thing there is, I don't want to take this out of context. I don't want to apply their exact meaning to ours. But if you look into our world, the number one fear that's going on right now is, maybe COVID, with number two right behind it is political fears. And we are worried about those things. And we think that those things are going to be the end-all, be-all of our existence and are going to run us down or put us in a bad position. What we should always do is say, God, you are my fear. You are my dread, but in a good way, right? Because he's calling us his sons. He's loving us. He's given us all of these promises that we can trust in, okay? So we don't place any other fear above that, okay? So that's number one. What throne do we answer to? God is telling Isaiah, let me be on your throne. You have nothing else to worry about at that point. So I fast forward to someone who is having that same struggle. So here's point number two. There was somebody else having a struggle of who they were going to place on the throne. But I will say this. They, with their lips, with their mouth, they were very sure that God was on the throne. But they didn't quite have it right. Okay, let's talk about what that means. First off, in Luke chapter 22, verse 33. This is Peter speaking. He says, but he said to him, Lord, I am ready to go with you, both to prison and to death. I mean, he is on it. I am following you. Jesus, you're on my throne. I will die for you. I'll go to prison for you. I'm not afraid of anything. I am ready to go. You are on the throne. Here's what actually happened. Here's what Jesus says about the matter. Then he said, I tell you, Peter, the rooster shall not crow this day before you will deny me 3 times that you know me. That's not good. Okay, so he honored him with his lips. He's saying all this, but he's not prepared to back it up yet. We keep going to the account in Matthew chapter 26, verse 34. Jesus said to him, assuredly I say to you that this night, before the rooster crows, you will deny me 3 times. And he said in verse 33, here's what Peter is trying to say. He says, even if all are made to stumble because of you, I will never be made to stumble. He's very confident. And that's what I'm worried about for us too. We might be really confident, but what does our life say? What are we actually doing? Are we proving it by our actions and by what's in our heart? So you fast forward and you say, well, are we sure that it was just in his mind, or was Peter willing to act? Was he ready to act? We fast forward to verse 51. This is as they had laid hands on Jesus and took him. Here's what happened. And suddenly, one of those who were with Jesus stretched out his hand, drew his sword, and he struck the servant of the high priest and cut off his ear. And Jesus puts him in his place. Well, he's ready to die for him. He says, even if everyone else stumbles, I won't. He's saying all these things with his mouth, but he also acted. So you're saying, Hunter, what more do you want from this guy? I mean, he's following and he's doing what he needs to do. If God is on your throne, he needs to be on a throne in such a way that his will is your will. Okay? If God is on your throne, he needs to be on your throne in such a way that his will is your will. And you'll take the time to line up what you believe his will to be through his word, and you will make that your will. Peter was ready to follow Jesus. He said it with his mouth. He said, you're on the throne. I'll die for you. I'll go to prison for you. I'll give up my life for what he thought his mission was. But he missed Jesus' mission. He thought he was going to come in and take over in a worldly way. He missed the point because he was after his own goals and not that of God's goals. So we have to align our will with God's will, as well as put him on the throne. Now, one thing I will point out is he did seem to make God his fear. He was willing to fight that group that came to take Jesus, but he missed the point. He missed the point. So Matthew chapter 10, verse 28. And do not fear those who kill the body, but cannot kill the soul, but rather fear him who is able to destroy both soul and body in hell. So many times that we can fear the wrong thing because the wrong thing is on the throne. Okay, Peter seemingly had the right thing on the throne. He seemingly had this. We can follow his example up to that point. He seemed to be kind of fearless, but he missed the point. And as soon as Jesus showed a weakness by being captured, in his mind he showed a weakness. What did he do? Well, he backed out. He did deny him. And we definitely see that Peter's lack of fear at first, well, that went out the door. Because he thought that whole mission, that failed. And so he was ready to back on out of that because Jesus wasn't going to physically protect him in his mind at that point. I think of the phrase, okay, I've heard this said from someone who was counseling a couple that was considering divorce. Okay, the family came to this counselor and they were considering a divorce, and he was talking to the husband. And the husband's like, I don't understand, I love my wife. He's like, I would die for her. And as they had been talking and seeing some of the things that he had been doing in life, and he had been cheating on her. He'd been not treating her, respectfully, not really doing anything for her. But he was adamant. He said, I will die for you. And he was very strict on that point. He just kept repeating it to the person that was trying to give them counsel. Well, he said, you're willing to die for her? Hey, I'll take your word for it. That's probably not ever going to happen. Have you considered living for her? And that was the point he made to the husband. And of course, that made him speechless. He said, have you considered living for her? I think many times we're prepared, possibly like Peter, maybe we're not even. We're prepared to die in the name of Jesus. If it came down to it, someone put a gun to our head and we had to say, I'm on my way out. Yeah, I believe in Jesus. Maybe we're prepared for that, but are you prepared to just live for him and give daily sacrifices every day? Who's on your throne? That's what I want to know. Who's on your throne? don't just be prepared to make one choice, but live every day for Jesus and for what his will is. And so we have to study hard to know what that is. One final passage that I want to look at that I think deals with this topic of who's on the throne and trying to set that straight. This is Paul speaking to young Timothy as he's trying to train him up in the way that he should go. 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 1. You therefore, my son, be strong in the grace that is in Christ Jesus. He wants him to be strong, be prepared and ready to battle and work hard. And the things that you have heard from me among many witnesses, commit these to faithful men who will be able to teach others also. You therefore must endure hardship as a good soldier of Jesus Christ. No one engaged in warfare entangles himself with the affairs of this life, that he may please him who enlisted as a soldier. Paul is telling Timothy exactly what throne he should answer to. He's telling him that it needs to become that of Jesus Christ. He becomes a good soldier, as it puts it in verse 3. So he's ready to endure. That's not just one moment at the end of your life. Someone points a gun at you and says, "Are you a Christian?" Well, that's not very enduring. Okay, that's just one moment, and it doesn't happen to most people. So you're ready to endure. That means a lifetime, probably of hardship, prepared in serving that of Jesus Christ. Verse 4 reminds me of that passage in Isaiah 8. This is actually where I saw the connection here. Sometimes we get involved with what everyone else is thinking out in the world, and we miss the fact that we have a whole different goal. We have a whole different mindset that's different than other people around us. No one engaged in warfare entangles himself with the affairs of this life. Meaning that soldier is worried about the battle. They're worried about warfare, and they don't get involved in the civilian affairs. Okay, they're focused on pleasing their commanding officer, and that's it. Okay, so in this world, we're dealing with spiritual warfare. We're focused on bringing lives to Christ. We are here to persuade souls. We're changing the heart of man. We're dealing with faithfulness. We're dealing with spiritual warfare, and that is our weapon. Okay, I could go into a long lesson about Ephesians 6 about our weapons are not the weapons of this world. Well, our war is also not the war of this world. Think about all the conflict that's going on politically right now. Our commanding officer is not Donald Trump. Our commanding officer is not Joe Biden. Our commanding officer is not the coronavirus task force. Our commanding officer is that of Jesus Christ. And so we're doing our battle for him, and our battle is spiritual warfare. And so it kills me when we're not focused on that. We're focused on whatever we think maybe the battle is, or we're focused on whatever we want to do in life, instead of focusing on the battle that we've been sent into. We've got a task of serving Jesus Christ, persuading men. We're so focused on, getting a good job and doing whatever the boss man tells us what to do. We're focused on doing that, making money. Whatever money we're making is not enough, so we got to figure out how to make more. Or how do I get a promotion? How do I do whatever the next thing is in life? That's not what we're focused on. Who is on your throne? I guarantee you with your mouth, you're going to say God. But what does your life say? Because Peter said, oh, it's God. But he did not align his focus with the will of Jesus Christ. I guarantee you're going to say it's God, but have you aligned your focus with that of God's focus? That is what I want to leave you with today. I hope that you'll get into his word and see that we're in the business of bringing souls to God. Find some way. If we put all of our energy that we have focused into things that they're not supposed to be, you'll find a way. Okay. Many people say I'm not an evangelist. I can't. That wasn't my gift. Or maybe your gift isn't preaching. Okay, that's a gift that some people get and some people don't. But all have been called to evangelize. Not all have been called to preach. Okay, we've all been given the great commission to go out and persuade people. So take part in that battle, become a good soldier, endure hardship, and make sure that you have the right person on the throne.